When is enough enough? I rise in opposition to AB 1482, a bill that will enact the most severe statewide rent control measure our state has ever seen. We talk about a 10-year sunset. My friends, in 10 years, most of us won't be here anymore in the legislature. It's just like a tax. We've labeled taxes as temporary taxes, but they always become permanent taxes. This 5% is going to be the floor, not the ceiling, to rent control in the state of California in the many years to come. I understand that some of the bigger business groups that were mentioned, the Apartment Association and other special interests, have cut a deal to exempt their housing units from this bill. You know, we just seem to want to exempt some of the bigger players so that we don't get any opposition, so we can say we did something that's righteous in the state of California. But you know, these bigger companies that own hundreds, if not thousands of apartments, you know, they have algorithms and they can spread costs and have fees that the smaller landlords don't have, you know, such as a pool fee, a security fee, an administrative fee, a pet fee. The list goes on and on. They're going to get their rent increases and they're going to get their money. But because we have this 15-year time period that they're exempt from this, it still is going to have an impact on their pro formas as they look to California to invest in, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. But what about the small apartment owner who worked their whole life to grab a few bucks to get an 8-plex or a 12-plex in a unit that may be 20 years or older? I'm reminded of a story about some hard-working Asian people in San Francisco that sold donuts and worked hard as a family, were able to buy 2 or 3 homes in San Francisco and are able to have some passive income that they can look forward to retirement. It's unfortunate, you know, especially if they put their assets in a C Corp, that they're going to have to bear the consequences of this legislation. I guess the small apartment owner just didn't have enough juice to cut their own deal to get exempted. Yet, look what they have to look forward to. Every year as property values go up, our assessor raises the value of the properties, but under Prop 13, which we know is under assault in the state of California, may not be around for God knows how much longer, but they can mandatorily increase the property taxes by 2% per year. Some investors invest in condo townhome developments. HOA fees rarely go down, they usually go up. And then, of course, if you live in Los Angeles, as a friend of mine, Peter, who came here as an immigrant from Hungary when he was 2 years old, and his parents didn't speak the language, became naturalized and got into the real estate business and worked their whole lives and ended up getting 14 units in Brentwood, which is a pretty, you know, high-cost area. And his parents recently, in the past decade, both passed away. He inherited those properties, and the city of LA now is requiring him to earthquake retrofit these units at a significant cost over a period of time, and by enacting a 5% cap, he'll probably expire himself before he ever gets the return on investment with these earthquake retrofits in Los Angeles. There are many reasons to be opposed to this bill, but the first I'd like to mention is that California voters overwhelmingly rejected rent control. Recently, just last year in 2018, Californians voted no on Prop 10, which failed not by a few percentage points, my friends. It failed by 19 points. I guess the legislature is just following the governor's lead and ignoring the will of the voters. First it was a death penalty, now it's rent control. The people have spoken and we are ignoring that, and believe me, they're paying attention. That doesn't sound like democracy to me, but I'm getting used to that practice in this building with this governor and this legislature. AB 1482 will also create major housing market instability, which will only perpetuate our state's housing crisis even more. Maybe we should learn from lessons from other states, like Oregon, who voted in a rent control measure 3 months ago. Already in the state of Oregon, there has been a 38% decrease in multifamily investment. Is that what we want in California, is a decreased investment in multifamily investments, especially by the big players when we have a shortage of housing? And you all know the supply and demand equation. If you don't have the supply, the rents are going to go up. They're going to go up, especially in the newer units. They're going to be even more unaffordable, especially with the mandates that this institution places on builders. Housing investors and developers are not stupid people. They know that rent control provides no market stability, and who would risk their money, time, and investment on instability when certainly there are other places they can go that are not going to have their investments hamstrung the way the state of California is trying to do that. Maybe our constituents will have to continue to move to Texas, to Arizona, to Florida, to Idaho, to Nevada, or Tennessee. And that's just not rhetoric. The proof is in the pudding. From 2017 to 2018, those states have seen 377,000 new housing units built. But California has only seen a 100,000 unit increase. The number of units built, my friends, if you pass this measure, AB 1482, will only decrease if rent control is enacted. What does this mean for California? We'll see even a greater housing crisis because of the low supply of housing. Either this will force our constituents to join 60,000 homeless population that we see in the LA area, or they'll simply just move to another state. If we really want to solve California's housing crisis and protect existing and future tenants, we must pass legislation that encourages housing investment and provides housing choice by removing barriers so that developers can buy land and can build and stop overloading them with onerous regulations that translate into higher costs that have to be passed on to renters. AB 1482 will discourage investment in housing, slow housing construction, and limit tenants' ability to find homes. My friends, I know it feels good to make a statement that you want to protect the renters in the state of California. We all do. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. Limiting the supply and limiting the investment and providing the same is not the right approach. We learned that in Economics 101. I can tell you I've been a proud investor in real estate for 35 years. I've prepared for this moment. I'm in good shape. Many of my family members have prepared for this moment. They're in good shape. But there are many in California that weren't aware that this train was going to be leaving the station, hurting their ability to enjoy their investments, especially our retired folks that work their entire lives to build a little bit of savings to buy a few dwelling units so that they can live a comfortable life in their retirement. They still have to maintain these units that are older. The plumbing goes out, the air conditioning goes out, the heating goes out. These expenditures are not cheap. They're expensive, especially with older units. So if you have a cap of 5% on a unit that's 30 or 40 years old, my uncle owns some units in Glendale, California. They're probably 50 years old. You know, it's almost time you have to kind of rebuild these units again to make them habitable so that people can enjoy their homes, but that costs money. Well, if they can't get a return on their investment, do you really believe they're going to invest in these units and make them nice and habitable? I think the answer is no. We're going to create substandard living conditions for people that are living at the borderline of becoming homeless in the state of California. This housing crisis is very much responsible for the policies that come out of this institution. We can do a lot better job of reducing costs, and let's have competition amongst landlords. There's not much competition now because you haven't made it easy for people to build multifamily development in the state of California. And when you don't have competition, this is what the result is. And so what's the government's solution? Let's just cap the income that these entrepreneurs are entitled to make. It's the wrong way to do it. You need to increase the supply, something we've all talked about. And when you increase the supply, many of these landlords are going to compete, and they're going to compete in a rent-wise way, and that's how you're going to lower rents, and that's how you're going to maintain properties in the state of California so we have habitable dwelling units for people to occupy. My friends, these are the reasons why we should be saying no to AB 1482. It feels good, but it's going to hurt a lot of people in the state of California if you pass this. I urge you no vote on AB 1482.